You don't know what deck to play? Don't worry, I got you. To find out what deck you want to play the most, this is how we're going to do it. Decks can fit into 3 categories: aggro, mid-range, control. Aggro, fast, lots of burst, burns out faster. Control, it's all about outvaluing your opponent. Mid-range, looking to stay in the game against aggro and beat control before they can get their value. We've got Vayu. This deck is a favorite in the Edison community. BlackWing Vayu is one of the funnest cards to resolve, giving you a free synchro summon from the grave. This deck has very consistent power, and if you're a GOAT Chaos player, this is the deck for you. With a lot of strong plays, good synchro capabilities, all around consistent power, this is a great deck to pick up. Next, we have Welledad. This deck is a lot more recently popular, getting its name from Telekinetic Powerwell. This deck has a lot of combo capabilities, with Armageddon Knight being able to send Malicious, Telekinetic Power bringing back Krebons, with a lot of strong burst potential with summoning out your Psychics and Malicious for strong synchro plays, and also able to sit back on your back row, Krebons, and Spirit Reaper. Next, we have Rescue Cat. Nothing better than Rescue Catting into double Airbalum and attacking face, milling 2 cards from your opponent's hand. Rescue Cat can be played in a lot of different ways. This deck I'll be showing you has a lot of control capabilities with our good old Hamster Raikou engine, giving great control along with Caius for removal, a good back row, and Spirit Reaper. This deck is good at keeping control of the board, with Rescue Cat being able to give burst once you've controlled the board. Definitely recommend this deck. Next we have Amaryllis, our good old reoccurring plant. This deck has a lot of burst potential, with cards like Lonefire Blossom summoning out Titanial, and our reoccurring boss monster, Amaryllis. With a lot of strong value plays, your hand can get stuck with level 8s in your hand. That's why we run 3 trade-in. A dead Titanial in hand, 2 more cards. If you like cheating out big beat sticks that also have protection, this is the deck for you. Now we have Counter Trap Control. This is one of my favorite decks. Right here is a Pac-Man variant, going for max value and really outgrinding your opponent, being able to draw every turn and shut down all of your opponent's plays. This deck is great for if you don't want your opponent to play, and you like having a full hand when your opponent has nothing. Classic BlackWings. This is a prime example of a good aggro deck. Kalute letting you beat over most monsters, Vayu letting you cheat out synchro monsters, getting rid of your opponent's cards with Icarus attack. This deck has constant pressure on your opponent. Now we have our pesky chain burn deck. Oh no, why burn? Why? If you draw the right hand, your opponent can be out of the game within seconds. This deck holds a lot of powerful burn cards like Just Desserts, Secret Barrel, and of course, Chain Strike. Man, does it feel good to have a Chainlink 6 Chain Strike, dealing all of their life points in 1 turn. If you like pesky burn decks, this deck is definitely for you. Cloudian. If you want to have a fun time, Cloudian is the deck. This is a great off-meta control deck. This deck takes control of the game state while still having fun clouds on the board. With this deck being able to have Herald of Orange Light and Kristya makes this deck a lot more viable than you would expect. All the Cloudian monsters can't be destroyed by battle, making them very hard to get rid of. This deck is looking to add fog counters to all your monsters and ramp up, gaining more every turn. I recommend this deck who likes control with a twist. Ooh, Fish OTK. This is the go-to OTK deck in Edison. This deck uses Battle Failure and Dupe Vlog to slow the game down until you get your boss monster, Super Ancient Deep Sea King Coelacanth. If you enjoy OTK decks and fun frogs, this is going to be right up your alley. Spell Counters. A great deck. This deck is my current favorite, with a lot of control options like Secret Village, Royal Oppression, Kaiko, and Honest. If you want to see a video on this deck, I've got one on my channel you should check out. It also has a lot of removal with Arcanite Magician, and has strong aggro. Honestly, I was thinking of putting it in the mid-range tier, but it is so good with Secret Village. Now we have Kristya Beast, a GX favorite. If you love GX and the power of the rainbow giving you card advantage, this is the deck for you. This deck holds the most powerful field spells in the Edison format. This card protects your life points, has spell trap negation, and draws you a card. There's not a better card than that. With Dragon Queen of Tragic Endings, you can gain so much card advantage. Gaia. Gaia has two different ways of playing it. An Earth way, which has a little bit more control aspects, that's focused more on Gaia Plate, and there's another that's focused more on heroes. My favorite of the two is definitely the Gaia Plate one. The best parts of this deck is Doomcaller negating and Quacky Mirror negating, making sure you feel on top of the game with strong power plays like Gaia Plate. The other deck has a lot more focus on fusion summoning, with triple Dark Calling and double Miracle Fusion. If you want to get your game on, play that deck. Dark Scourge. Man, do I love playing this deck. This deck has a very unique effect. With Sky Scourge being able to send both players' hands to the grave, and Phantom of Chaos being able to copy any effect in your deck, you make the match a simplified game state, making grave effects and top decking the most important. You can really make your opponents mad when they're reduced down to just having to top deck. Now, we have Hero Frogs. I would put this in control. This deck has a lot of competitive viability. It's one of the strongest decks in the meta right now. This deck has the capability of a dupe lock, which is able to lock your opponent out of attacking your monsters. Also has a lot of strengths with the Monarch engine, with triple Caius and double Rise Up, being able to control your opponent's board. And the special Absolute Zero, being able to completely wipe your opponent's board when they destroy this monster. Now we have Gladiator Beast. This deck has a lot of opinions around it and ends up popping up in the meta every once in a while. It has a very unique playstyle, being able to switch out your monsters from the field to deck constantly. This deck uses contact summoning to summon your 2 fusion monsters. If you've played a lot of Edison decks and you really want to switch up the pace, I tried this one. It has a very unique gimmick and playstyle. Now we have a cool zombie deck. This is an instant fusion zombie deck. Instant fusion is used to make strong synchro plays fast. This is a good example of a strong combo deck. It's also home to a strong card called Book of Life. This is pretty much Monster Reborn, but you run 3 of them. This deck is a lot of fun to play with a lot of recursion. I'd check it out. Hero Beat. This is the golden boy of aggro. This deck's main card is Elementor Hero Alias. You have Honest powering it. You have Gemini Spark powering it. You have Hero Blast powering it. All of this makes this deck a constant threat. With cards like Miracle Fusion backing up and Skill Drain with a strong trap lineup. If you like just summoning a monster and attacking face, this is the deck for you. LightSworns. One of the most aggressive decks in Edison. You like gambling? You like high octane? This is the deck for you. Mill your deck, summon monsters, clear your opponent's board with Judgment Dragon. This deck has your opponent praying you don't mill 3 Wolf. But be careful, make sure you don't mill your entire deck. LightSworns definitely give your opponent a run for their money. Great aggro. Kristya Fairy Control. This is the most viable control deck in the format. Negates are so powerful, and you run 3 with Herald of Orange Light, 3 Kristyas being able to stop your opponent from special summoning, 3 Deity Warrior Lady to banish any monster that gets in your way. To top it off, Honest works on all of your monsters. Don't be fooled, this deck has a high skill ceiling, but can also be picked up by a beginner. Personally, this is the deck I recommend the most to new players. Machina Control. Man, what a great deck. A deck like this is the reason everyone runs Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon. Having a searchable Machina Fortress that's a free special summon and pops monsters, this deck definitely makes you feel like a badass. Now we have Ojamas. This one's definitely one of my favorite decks. I'll show you 2 different ways to play Ojamas. The first list is a more synchro-orientated deck, running cards like Junk Synchron, Summoner's Monk, and Rescue Cat to support your synchro plays, and using the Ojamas as for snipe hunter fodder. Ojama's strongest ability in my opinion is Ojama Knight. If you have Ojama Country on the board, that's an instant fusion target with 2500 attack. Also being able to special summon it from the grave with an Ojama monster in your hand. The next list uses Symbols of Duty to get a lot of your power. Being able to get rid of an Ojama monster to take any monster from their grave and use it against them is a very powerful effect. But be careful, you don't want to end up with a hand full of Ojama normal monsters. This deck especially. Dragon Turbo. This is a great example of a turbo combo deck. If you want really quick wins, this is definitely the deck for you. Having the Blue Eyes engine, being able to cards of consonants, your Whitestone of Legend, getting a Blue Eyes, then discarding it with trade into draw 2 is a great draw engine. Super rejuvenate. The key to this deck, you will draw your entire deck and then end with a power play with Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Wow, does this have a powerful turn. Now going on to Quickdraw Plant. This is my favorite deck for synchro summoning. Dandelion, Quickdraw, and Debris Dragon all in the same deck allows for such strong synchro plays. And being able to do the Drill Warrior dance, getting value after value after value, is seriously one of the best feelings in this game. I highly recommend this deck if you love synchro summoning. Now we've got Dragon Aggro. This is exactly what it sounds like. Put a ton of dragon monsters in your deck and attack face. Some powerful cards to mention in this deck: Quackimere Draco, floodgating your opponent, and Mass Dragon, being able to add consistency to your deck, and Red Eyes Metal Dragon. Red Eyes Metal Dragon being able to special summon any monster from your graveyard. This deck does not give your opponent a break. Now we have Diva Heroes. This is another very popular deck in Edison, great for synchro summoning. This deck has a lot of combo potential. This deck being able to fusion summon into Elementor Hero Absolute and make consistent synchro plays using Deep Sea Diva, a real threat to your opponent. Another card to note in this deck is Returning from a Different Dimension. This card makes strong burst damage when you're almost out of fuel. Assault Mode Turbo. This deck probably has one of the strongest cards in the game, the only Omni Negate in the Edison format. With a level 6 and Arcane Apprentice, synchro summon Stardust Dragon, search Assault Mode activate, then summon Stardust Dragon Assault Mode. Wow, this deck tramples once you get Stardust Dragon Assault Mode on the board. Even though this deck has one of the strongest monsters in Edison format, if you can't summon it first turn, it doesn't do much. That being said, it's a fun deck and I highly recommend it. Now we have Winged Rhynos, one of the most interesting control decks. If you really want a long, grindy game, Winged Rhynos is right up your alley. This deck looks to gain as much value as you possibly can with Winged Rhynos. Being able to activate a trap and send it back into your hand to dodge a lot of crazy effects, people tend to not know how to play around this deck. If you play this deck right, Winged Rhynos will never be destroyed. This deck knows how to get to deck out.